Next on KGW, celebrating history makers in Oregon, from the people and groups that shaped our industries.
When we first started, there was no Oregon wine industry.
Our tagline is Pape keeps you moving, right? And that's 24 hours a day.
To those that devoted themselves to improving our health and the health of our environment.
When the president tells you that you've literally made the world better, your head just gets 2 sizes bigger instantly.
We said that we would keep a covenant with the Creator, and that covenant would be to be the stewards of flora and fauna.
That's next on our History Makers Special. Hello and welcome to this special presentation from KGW and the Oregon Historical Society. I'm your host, Tim Gordon. Each year, the Historical Society honors notable people and organizations who have dedicated their lives to making our community, our state, and the nation a better place to live. That's whether they were born here, live here, or work here. They're meant to represent the best of this state. Our first history maker is a man who's received the highest honor for technological achievement in the United States. Dr. David Huang helped invent non-invasive eye imaging technology, which is now used in millions of procedures every single year. Our China Green shows us how Dr. Huang is saving lives and innovating laser technology for eye health.
Dr. David Huang never thought he would be making history by helping develop eye imaging technology.
So this is an optical lab where we develop new instruments.
The groundbreaking technology can save lives, prevent blindness, and help premature babies.
It can measure the time of flight of light from the tissue, so you have ability to resolve depth. The doctors can see the images within a few seconds to a few minutes.
The imaging technology is known as optical coherence tomography. It's a technique that uses light waves to create detailed images of the retina, the light-sensitive area of the eye.
It was invented with my PhD thesis in 1991, and it uses an interferometer using a beam of light to scan tissue. So you get a 3-dimensional image with micrometer resolution. And that is unique among the major imaging technologies. You get finer images than CT or MRI or ultrasound.
Before developing the technology, Dr. Huang spent his early years in Taiwan and came to the United States, where he went on to earn several degrees.
I'm from Taiwan originally. I moved to the United States when I was 12. I spent a lot of time in Boston for college and graduate school and medical school for 12 years. I did MD, PhD at Harvard, MIT, and then I got my training in ophthalmology, and I've been working in basically translational research since then.
Dr. Huang later came to the Pacific Northwest after receiving an offer he couldn't refuse, to work at the Casey Eye Institute at OHSU.
I came to Portland 14 years ago, 2010. OHSU really gave me the most support. Dr. Dave Wilson, who was the director then, promised me a lot of space and support so I could develop a leading laboratory for OCT research, and he delivered on everything. This is a prototype where we can adjust the direction of scan.
The Casey Eye Institute is a premier national eye center that serves Oregon and the surrounding states. It provides specialty eye care and a leader in research. It also provides training for medical students. There, Dr. Huang was able to work on the OCT technology.
It's undergone really tremendous growth, and we made major contributions, and the scan takes a few seconds.
OCT is transforming the way eye disease is diagnosed and managed. It's being used in more than 30 million imaging procedures worldwide, and now making Dr. Huang an Oregon history maker.
OCT can often detect diseases before other tests can, and that includes age-related macular degeneration, glaucoma, and other leading causes of blindness. And that allows doctor to treat early before damages or before significant damages have occurred, or to monitor the disease more closely.
With over 40 patents, the technology is licensed to commercial companies and sold to doctors that can use it for their patients.
And put your chin right there and forehead all the way against the instrument right there.
Because of the life-saving technology, Dr. Huang and other co-inventors of OCT received the Lasker Award in 2023, the highest prize in medical science.
I certainly enjoy going to the White House a lot. You know, when the president tells you that you've literally made the world better, your head just gets 2 sizes bigger instantly.
Dr. Huang is excited to see how the technology continues to transform lives in the future.
It means a lot to me. Means means that I've made a contribution I'm very proud of, and it's something I think about often. And it makes me want to contribute more and continue to improve and expand the technology.
And says he couldn't be more proud to now be an Oregon history maker.
I've been here 14 years, and I guess I could say I feel like I'm an Oregonian now.
Our next history maker has committed much of his professional career to conservation. Chuck Sams is the current director of the National Park Service, the first Native American to hold that position. Before joining the federal government, he advocated for Native American governments. Kel Williams has his story.
Well, Nich Maetsky, everyone. Good morning, my friends and relatives. I'm Soal.
Chuck Sams never dreamed he'd one day become the director of the National Park Service.
I laughed at the poor woman who asked if I had any interest in being the 19th director because I thought somebody set me up.
But his appointment in 2022, the first time the service would be led by an Indigenous person, marked a turning point, not just for our national parks, but for Sams personally.
Is because they wanted me to come on the inside to see if we could really make positive change.
Sams had been engaging with the federal government for years, but as an outsider. Over the course of his career, he's worked to make the government more responsive to the needs of Native people. And he's held them accountable when they failed to live up to their treaty obligations. But before he did any of that, he was just a kid growing up on the Umatilla Reservation in Northeast Oregon.
So I come from a very large family. My father had 9 other siblings, and I was very fortunate to grow up around both my paternal grandparents and maternal grandparents.
It was that upbringing, around so much tradition and tribal history, that planted the seeds of what Sams would become.
My own creation story tells me that my skin is from the hide of elk, my vision is from the eagle, my hearing is from the owl, that the roots and berries provided my nervous system, and that's how I was created as a human being.
It also instilled in him values he would carry with him throughout his career.
The last thing that we get is our voice, and that voice comes from salmon. But in return for getting that voice, we said that we would keep a covenant with the Creator, and that covenant would be to be the stewards of flora and fauna.
As a young man, he joined the military, working in intelligence on issues in Russia, the Middle East, and China. But he knew all along he wanted to get back to his roots.
I came home and knew that I wanted to do environmental work.
In the lead up to his position at the helm of the National Park Service, he rose through the ranks of tribal government on the Umatilla Reservation. He worked on renewable energy and salmon issues, and for former Governor Kate Brown. And though the jobs were different, there was a consistent through line.
Most people know I spent nearly 30 years actually throwing rocks at the Department of Interior about upholding their trust responsibility to the Confederate Tribes Umatilla Indian Reservation and to Indian tribes writ large.
Even though he's now working within the system, he brings that same ethos to overseeing the national parks. When he first started the job, he found a dearth of knowledge about the role of Native Americans in the country's wildest places.
So what I had realized in working with the staff, both in the National Park Service and across the Department of Interior, there was this gap of information and education.
But he also found an earnest desire to learn.
And it was amazing to me that once they had the information, how excited that they were to actually begin working with tribes in a new and an earnest way.
And Native folks are in a unique position to impart knowledge about some of America's most treasured areas.
Humans have had a relationship with this landscape that has been thousands of years old for a republic that is just now turning 250. Sometimes it boggles people's mind.
Now, the National Park Service is not small. It encompasses some 63 parks, but also 85 national monuments, 63 national historic sites, and 18 national recreational areas. But for all its size, the National Park Service is young compared to the people who have called those lands home for millennia.
What folks have called wild, we've always called home for at least 30,000 years or since time immemorial. And like any other humans, we've manipulated our landscape. We've experimented with what works and what doesn't work.
And now that knowledge, accumulated over thousands of years, is finding a home in the National Park Service. SAMS has implemented nearly 150 co-stewardship and co-management agreements with tribes and parks across the country.
We're able to bring those stories to life that have been laying dormant for a very long time.
It's something he's proud of, to be sure, but it all stems from his upbringing in Oregon.
Everything from a coastline to old forest growth, rainforests, to high desert and high plateau areas. You know, I couldn't think of a better place to be from or to grow up in, to have a strong understanding of how ecosystems function. We are a part of our environment. The land is us and we are the land.
Coming up, it's a family business that's grown to be a major Western U.S. supplier of heavy machinery. How Pape keeps going strong, now in its 4th generation of leadership. Our next history maker is a family business that started in the Willamette Valley and has since grown to be the leading supplier of heavy equipment in the western United States. We're of course talking about Pape. I met with several family members and learned how the company has changed over the years and how they are giving back to Oregon. Drive anywhere around the western U.S. and you'll see the Pape signs. Signs of a family business that got its start more than 85 years ago in Eugene, Oregon.
Well, it started with my great-grandfather, who first got the opportunity to have an equipment dealership.
After working his way up in equipment manufacturing, E.C. Pape bought an Alice Chalmers tractor dealership in 1938, and it was the start of something special. The Oregon business has grown over 4 generations to sell and service heavy equipment and machinery to help build Oregon and other western states. All along, the ethos hasn't changed.
I have one of these at my house,
says Ryan Pape, president of Pape Machinery, Agriculture and Turf.
Our customers always come first. Our tagline is Pape keeps you moving, right? And that's 24 hours a day, that's 7 days a week.
Early on, leadership moved into its 2nd generation, with Eddie and Dean Pape taking the reins from their mother, Hazel, who led the business after E.C. died in 1945. It was renamed Pape Brothers in 1952 and grew through that decade and the 1960s as a Caterpillar dealer. It was during a time of major projects in Oregon, from the building of I-5 to the construction of the Cougar Reservoir.
I think my grandfather probably set down the initial layout for what we needed to be as just a completely customer-centric, service-oriented company.
As president and CEO of today's Pape Group, Jordan Pape oversees a much larger company consisting of 5 divisions, from farming to forestry, construction to trucking and materials handling, offering what Jordan describes as end-to-end solutions.
Yeah, well, if you go back into our roots in the timber industry, we want to sell you the John Deere harvester to harvest the tree, the John Deere log loader that loads the log onto the back of the Kenworth log truck. We want to sell you the Kenworth log truck that takes it to the mill, where the Heister and Yale forklifts are moving the lumber and plywood around the mill, out the other side of the mill, back onto a Kenworth truck that'll take those materials to a housing development where John Deere and Ditch Witch are putting in the roadways, utilities, and pads.
It's a lot, but thank goodness for family. Jordan is joined in leading the company by brother Ryan and their mother, Susie Pape, who serves as board chair. They, along with more than 4,500 employees, are now serving 9 western states.
Working with the people in the company, working with the customers, all of that has to be a finely tuned ballet.
Susie married Randy Pape in the early 70s after they both graduated from the University of Oregon. Randy became the 3rd generation leader of Pape in the early 80s, seeing the family business through a major recession to survive and eventually diversify and grow. Part of that included switching from Caterpillar to John Deere.
When I met Randy, we were 5 little stores in southwestern Oregon, and that seemed to be where we were going to stay. Fooled them. We've had a wonderful ride in Oregon, and expanding to the surrounding states has been terrific.
The only other thing decidedly not terrific was a cancer diagnosis for Randy that took his life in 2008. It was another time of deep recession, and through her grief, Susie kept it together.
I wanted to keep everyone employed. I wanted to keep everyone moving forward and keep the company moving forward. And my sons are only in their 20s.
From that time to the present day, Pape remains committed to Oregon.
We've been in Oregon for 86 years, and so this is home.
And a big part of that commitment has been supporting the communities that have supported Pape, with the center of that being where it all started in Oregon.
Our mom and dad believed deeply that giving back to the community is so important if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that.
The biggest gift so far, $5 million in 2022 to create the Pape Family Innovation Center at the Knight campus for accelerating scientific impact at the University of Oregon. But Pape supports a multitude of charitable causes.
The areas that we focus on the most philanthropically relate around education and healthcare, right? And we really believe that if you give the next generation an opportunity, that they're going to be the ones that outperform anything you can do in the current generation.
And speaking of next generations, there are 8 Pape children between the ages of 12 and 22, representing a 5th generation, with an opportunity, if they earn it, to continue the family's success story.
I think that we have let them know that there is a value in this company, and that if they choose, they can continue to promote that value.
But the Willamette Valley wasn't always nationally recognized for its wine industry. After a break, we introduce you to the local visionary who helped blaze that trail decades ago. Our final history maker was instrumental in growing Oregon's wine industry into what it is today.
If you love fine wine, you know Oregon's Willamette Valley. You've probably traipsed through its acres of Pinot Noir, and chances are you're familiar with the name Soal Blosser.
Oh, it's almost our go-to winery when we think of wines of Oregon. It's good.
But what you may not know is the story behind the fruits of this winery's labor.
At the end of 1970,
a business venture that helped put Oregon on the map.
My husband and I bought 18 acres.
Ask Susan Soal Blosser about that map.
I think we should start a vineyard.
She knows it well.
I thought he was nuts. When we first started, there was no Oregon wine industry. And when I would go out to try and sell wine, I had to take a map of Oregon. Where is Oregon? Do you grow grapes in Oregon?
It all started in 1971. Susan and her husband, Bill Blosser, were both recent Stanford grads. Both were liberal arts majors. So naturally, their career path led them to planting grapevines in the Dundee Hills. As Susan recalls, it was all Bill's idea.
It's like, I didn't have any better ideas. Why not?
Susan ran with it. Together, the pair helped cultivate the start of the state's now burgeoning wine industry, along with Oregon's other early winemakers. Susan is firm on that point.
Yes.
Their destiny, she believes, was born from a team effort by all of Oregon's Pinot pioneers. Their wines bound for international acclaim, eventually.
If somebody told me in 1970 or 71 that someday we would be in the best restaurants in the world, I would have laughed so hard.
Getting there took time.
This is sort of the family history of the winery. It's also the history of my hairdos.
It also took work.
Yes.
Lots of work.
And this is what it's all about.
Walking through the vineyards is just a constant reminder that, we're farmers first.
Alex Soal Blosser is one of Susan and Bill's 3 children.
Yeah.
He and his sister Allison are now co-presidents of the family winery.
Yeah.
Their brother Nick is chairman of the board.
Family, togetherness, good cheer, good food.
All of it part of a vision that Alex says took courage to execute.
My mom is, she's always been a general. My mom is she's tough, crazy idea to do this. There was no industry at the time.
Today, the farm is certified organic.
No, that's fabulous Pinot. We're glad we came here. It's fabulous.
Its barrel cellar
the first LEED certified winery building in the world. All over the estate, you'll find signs of sustainability, from solar panels to water-wise landscapes. Susan traces those efforts back to her business mantra when she was president.
People, planet, profit. That we had to take care of not only our employees, but the community. We had to take care of the planet. And we had to make money because we couldn't do these other things unless we made money. But that was not the goal of the business.
Yeah.
Daughter Allison is so proud.
We want people to know that when they're drinking our Pinot Noir, that there's a lot that goes into that glass of wine, and there's a lot of history there, there's a lot of people there, there's, vintage variation, the climate effects.
In 2008, after nearly 40 years at the winery's helm, Susan transferred control to Allison and Alex.
Yes.
She says it was her idea, but it was still hard.
And I had no idea it was going to be so difficult to give up control. And it was almost as if, I ended a period of grieving, essentially, like I'd lost my identity. If I wasn't Susan's CEO, who was I? This is my business philosophy.
She became Susan Author. Her books include Gracious and Ruthless, Surprising Strategies for Business Success.
It's important to be both. You can't be just one.
In it, Susan unpacks the lessons she learned while running a small business. Pearls of wisdom she offers to other small business owners.
We go from cleaning the toilets to meeting with the banker, And in other words, we do everything.
In 2010, that fearless gumption led Susan to run for a seat in Oregon's House of Representatives. She fell short, but the support she gained led to another way she could serve her community. Susan launched the nonprofit Yamhill Enrichment Society. Their mission? Transform the lives of Yamhill County kids through literacy and music. With its junior orchestra of Yamhill County, they aim to give every kindergartner in the district a chance to learn a stringed instrument.
We can see the difference in kids' lives.
Good evening and welcome to Big Night.
Every summer, the Yamhill Enrichment Society holds a fundraiser, Bounty of Yamhill County.
And our mission to transform the lives of Yamhill County children.
It doubles as a celebration of what's special about Yamhill County. So much of it tied to Susan, philanthropist. It turns out Susan's CEO was but a chapter in a book with even more pages waiting to be filled.
That's my mom. She keeps generaling. She will until I don't want to think about it, but when she wants to go on. So she's I love her.
Yeah.
Susan, Oregon history maker, we raise a glass to you.
Jesus. Well, thank you for joining us for this Oregon History Makers special. The Oregon Historical Society Museum is open 7 days a week. And remember, you can stream KGW News on your schedule anytime. Download the free KGW Plus app, available right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Take care, everyone.